Hi Stampers, this is Kim with Great Inspirations. Welcome to my Stamp Happy Holidays video. And this is the last video. Next week I'll do a video on some quick gift card holders. But for today, we're going to take a peek at these cards. If you have yet to begin your Christmas card making session, I would say it's time. If you need a few more extra cards, one of these ideas may be for you because each of these cards here took between 3 to 5 minutes to assemble. And that is from cutting and scoring the card base to doing some die cutting and that kind of thing. So we're going to talk about some strategies to make some cards when there is very little time. The first thing you want to do is say, okay, I can't do anything real super duper fancy, no techniques that I've never tried before. It's just time to make a card and get busy. Also, just, keep it simple. Decide, well, how many cards do I really need to send? And then just set aside your time. Now, maybe sometime in the morning after your first cup of coffee or whatever, if you do have, say, 10 or 15 minutes, go to your craft space, cut your card bases, score them. If you have some time during lunch, maybe you can do any stamping or die cutting that you need to do. And just work that in over a few days. Then put your cards together, sign your name, put them in an envelope, address the envelope, mail them to the recipients, and you will feel so much better because you got your cards made and out in time to spread Christmas cheer to all of your friends and loved ones. So let's talk about some things that you can do to make really quick but pretty Christmas cards. So first of all, these I simply cut patterned paper to size, the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Put it on a white card base, added a greeting, a few gems, and I thought those looked really nice. Now, this paper is from 49th and Main, and it's called, let's see, what is it called? Christmas Spectacular. And I just really liked the images on the paper, and you do kind of need to decide where to cut your paper to actually get a good placement for an image, but that's not too hard to do, and it doesn't take long at all. And actually, each of these cards took just under 3 minutes to create. So that's just using pattern paper for the front. Let's kind of clear some of these away so we'll have a little bit of space here. So here I can show you where I got that pattern paper. Here's this. See, if you wanted to cut it to fit, you might have to decide, do you want it to be, landscape or portrait, just depending on where the design would fit. And actually, I kind of liked just this. I have some images that I could have stamped on paper and put on that to make a really cute card as well. But there's that. And then the Santa came from this design. I think this would have been a good, right here, a nice card. And actually, I think this is pretty nice too. You could just put a greeting on it and a few embellishments and be good to go. So that's just doing it with some pattern paper. And, excuse me, that's what these two were. And then we'll move along to a die cut, and I mean a big die cut. So if you have like a cover plate die cut or a die cut that's specifically for an A2 size card, which remember the front of the card is 5.5 by 4.25. This makes for some really quick cards. You just run your die cut through. Actually, it took me longer to put the glue on the back of the die cut than it did to do any of the rest of it. And the way you can kind of jazz these up a little bit for the holidays, get out your specialty papers. Do you have glimmer paper? Do you have glitter paper? Do you have shimmer paper? Anything that has shimmer and shine, or anything that's gold or foil. That is perfect for Christmas and perfect for these dies, this type of dies. This one is from stampbook.com, but this one is one that is from Stampin' Up! From forever ago, and it's called Detailed Santa, and it is perfect for a 4.5 by 4.5 square card. I just added these little snowflakes, and there we go. It didn't take any time at all to put this together. Again, the gluing took longer than anything else. So this is using dies. Like I said, if you have a big die, maybe you have a die that's a big Christmas tree, you could cut it out and maybe with some kind of shiny paper or glittery paper, and pop it up on some dimensionals and let that be your focal point, and just maybe stamp on a greeting. But these cards, like I said, under 3 minutes. So that was a good, quick and fast, and I thought they turned out quite festive. So the next thing I did was I used an embossing folder. I forget the name of this one, but it is a Stampin' Up! It's one that's current. It was in their holiday catalog. And I just put my white cardstock in the folder, and it has 3 trees. I lined it up with these 2 trees to be my focal image. Then I just took some blending brushes with, this is actually just one color of green ink, and I just went over very lightly the raised areas. And yes, there's a little more ink here and there, but that's okay. And then I just took another blending brush with a very pale blue, and I went around the trees and up here for the sky. I added a greeting and some nice little iridescent snowflakes. And there we have it, a nice card. Now I did for this one took a little bit longer because I think it took about 5 minutes, because I added a layer inside, and most of these, because they're on white, they don't have an inside layer. I just stamped right inside them. But I did, let's see. Yeah, this one is on white. This one is on red, so it also had an inside layer, but I think I had it pre-cut from another project. But I did add an inside layer, and I think also it took just a little longer because I was doing the blending brush on top of the embossed image. Now, so we've talked about pattern paper, we've talked about using dies, we've talked about using embossing folders. The next thing I want to talk about is a background stamp, a large stamp like this. And if you have one of these and you happen to have like a stamping platform like Misty or something like that, that would be a good thing to use it, because if you don't get ink on all the little design, you can go back and keep redoing it until you get the ink coverage that you want. But I will, these cards I actually made last year, and I had some left over, and these were just, I think they're 3 3/4 by 5. I stamped on the white cardstock, cut it down, matted it. This one on gold and this one on white, just to give you an idea of how the gold can make a difference, but I think just the plain white is also really great. And just put greeting, die cut a greeting on. Actually, I had a bunch of these I die cut for some reason last year, and then I just used them. They were already cut. And I really don't know exactly how long these took me to make, but it was under 5 minutes. Definitely no more. But anyway, there's an option for a background stamp. But also, you can take that background stamp, stamp it, and cut it in two, or in two different pieces. And that is what I did here. I matted this one in red, and all these are scraps. The white and the red mats are scrap. I used some more of those circles I had pre-die cut at some point last year, and I just stamped my greeting on them. So that was kind of like a 2-for-1. When you stamp, cut it in half, and add it to your card. You get 2 images, so 2 cards. So that's another idea. And then I wanted to talk just a little bit about how you can just really speed things up. And I already talked about how if you have time in the morning, you can come and cut your card bases and score them and that kind of thing. But another thing is you may not have time to come up with 4 or 5 different card designs. So I would choose one. For example, if you're not going to have a lot of time, I would just get some pretty pattern paper and cut it at 4.25 by 4.25 by 5.5, and put it on the front of my card base. And I would use a white card base because it just makes it easier, because you don't have to put a panel inside. Stamp your inside greeting and you're good to go. But if you're a person who just cannot stand to make the same card, the exact same card over and over again, that would be me. What you can do, you can change up the paper, change up the color of the card base. You will still have the basic layout, the basic idea, but each card will be just a little different. And that might help you to finish the card sooner if you are like me and just hate to make the same card over and over again. And what I liked about these pattern papers from 49th and Market is if I want to make multiples from, let's say this design, that paper, I would have still my 4.25 by 5.5, but each one would be similar but just a little different. I would still be able to use my same greeting, and I would still be able to use the little gems that I used on this particular card, but each card would be just a little different. And I could use, the red card base, I could use a white one, I could use a green one, and that would keep me a little more interested in the card making process. But if you don't mind doing the same card over and over, that's great. And you can just cut all your card bases the same color. Now, of course, it won't be exactly the same, but they would all be similar, and you'll be good to go as well. And I've already mentioned that when you have a large die cut like this and you really want to make it a little more festive than just using the cardstock, you can use a specialty paper, and that really dresses up the card. And of course, adding little embellishments and making the card a square card as opposed to a rectangular card kind of just adds a little different or a little interest, because it's just a tad different without being overly strange. And then, of course, when you use, if you don't want to use a white card base, if you use a light colored card base, I really wouldn't have had to put the white in here, because this is light enough. I could have just stamped right on it and signed it. But I kind of like the contrast of the white and the green for that one. So that was just a couple more little tips I had. And of course, Now we already talked about with the background stamp, it helps if you have a stamping platform, because it really will help you get that good ink coverage if you don't get it the first time. So here are just a few ideas on how to make some really quick but very festive Christmas cards. Don't give up, you still have some time. Well, I want to thank you for joining me today, and there will be more information about these cards on my corresponding blog post. Until next time, stamp happy!